When you're working in 3D and when you're working with precomps, there's some issues you might need to be aware of that aren't super intuitive. We have this you yell you kick fixed composition. And this is where the bulk of our stuff is going down. We got all our 3D layers here. So if we were to use a camera, we would be able to obviously pilot through this in 3D and all that jazz. And what I've done is I've created a master comp that's smaller and then placed the you yell you kick fixed composition as a layer, a pre-composed layer here in the master comp. So then you might think, because this you yell you kick fixed comp is in 3D, that all we have to do to access that is to create a new camera and move it around. But as I click the unified camera tool and move this around, nothing's happening. Now, as we know, cameras and lights only apply to 3D layers. Okay then, so we'll take this composition and click this icon and turn it into a 3D layer. So now as we move our camera around, everything should work out, right? Nope. It still sees it as a solitary, flat layer. Well, what we've got to do is deselect the 3D layer and select this option, the Collapse Transformations button right underneath this star here. Click that, and then we'll be able to access the 3D attributes from the pre-comp here in this composition. Now, here's another sweet trick. If we turn this into a 3D layer, so we have both. We have Collapse Transformations and we have the 3D layer. And then we select this pre-comp and hit the letter S for scale. We can adjust its Z scale. Now, typically this is a useless attribute, right? So if we had like a solid, for example, and then we tried to scale it along the Z axis, that would basically make it thicker. But that doesn't work in After Effects. You can't make a layer thicker. But if you have a pre-comp that is made of a composition of 3D layers, then when you increase the Z scale, because there is actually some depth here, Marion is in front of the background. So there is some 3D depth in this composition. As we increase the scale, look at that. We actually are increasing the scale in the Z dimension of this composition. So we're actually bringing the layers closer together and farther apart by adjusting the scale of the pre-comp. So this is also a great trick if you've gone to a lot of work setting up all of your layers in 3D space and then you want all of them to be closer together, or all of them to be universally farther apart. You can just pre-compose them and then scale the Z-axis of the pre-composed composition.